the hip dysplasia, and there was really not much you could do because the surgery was so expensive and everything. And I was just wondering if your method of healing could have helped my dogs.
Well, it's one of those questions that it's looking back, it's hard to say. But what I can tell you is that I have had clients whose animals have been diagnosed with hip dysplasia, who, after getting worked on, it apparently went away, whatever that was. So I think really what happens is that animals get diagnoses because something looks like hip dysplasia or it looks like some sort of degenerative condition, and so they put a label on it. But then I do what I do, and it gets better. I don't think I'm getting those diagnosed conditions better. I think I'm restoring normalcy to a system that was out of balance, and those labels just were not really accurate or appropriate for that animal's condition. But they get better.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know it's very, very rewarding. How many animals, on average, would you say per week or per month you work with, or does it vary considerably?
Well, of course it varies somewhat, but let's see. Last week, if I recall, I only go out I go out on the road, as I call it, my road practice, once a week. In Seattle area, I've just started doing twice a week, but the second day is not real big. So what I end up with is probably seeing about between 10 and 15 a week.
Wow. Keeps you very busy, I guess.
Yes, it does. I'm actually transitioning. I still have a human practice. I guess I call it a chiropractic practice, but it's all energy work. And I love what Donia says about it's all energy. That's what my mentor has said for the last 40 years. And so I really relate to that. It's all energy, because that's what I'm working with.
I so much agree. That's just the common theme of tonight. And Dr. NELS, this is Wendy. I'd just like to say thank you for the wonderful work you've done with my cat, with my rabbit, with me personally, with family members. I just really, really am very appreciative.
Wendy, I'd like you to tell a little bit about this rabbit. What the heck went on there? I'm still kind of mystified.
Yes. Our rabbit was healthy as could be, and just all of a sudden I looked at him one day and I kind of squinted my eyes because he was just not looking right at all. And I could see something was, really going on with him, and he reminded me of what our other rabbit had looked like when he had passed on. And again, it was just too young and just nothing. I knew it was energetic. I knew it was energetic. He was going through something, enduring something, and I really thought he needed clearing. He needed help because, something was not right. And I came home early from work one day because I did not want my high school daughter, whose rabbit it was, I didn't want her to go through finding him dead in the hutch like her older sister had gone through with the other rabbit. And it was as clear as day to call you and get some assistance. So I believe what he did was he had a near-death experience, and he really, really went out of his body because Darcy Pariso was able to tune into him, as was Robin Alexis. So two very, very psychic friends were helping with it too, and said, wow, your rabbit, he's basically gone. He's basically, he's passing over. There's very, very little of him left. And it's like, well, what is the reason for that? And when he came back into his body after you started working with him for a day or two, he spoke to Darcy and he said, I had no idea how many people loved me. I had no idea I would be put on social media. He actually used the term social media, which I thought was hysterical, because you'd ask me to send a picture of him and I'd put him on my Facebook, and different folks were saying, let's send some love and prayers and energy to this rabbit because it's a healthy young rabbit and what is going on here. And he told Darcy, I wanted to really experience love. And I had no idea how loved I was, so I came back.
Wow, that's really a great story. I'm getting kind of choked up over here.
Yeah, that was what occurred. So he's doing great. He's done great ever since. But
we as humans vastly underestimate the intelligence of animals and their spiritual level of awareness, don't we?
That's true. Yeah, and this dog that I'd talked about in Sacramento that I worked on last Sunday, one of the things that I found I needed to do was work with the feeling of good, and this happens a lot with dogs in particular. They really want to know that they're good. And so while we were doing the energy work, we were, me and the couple were both, kept telling her that she was good, and it seemed to do her a lot of good to hear that. So I find that a lot with the dogs, though. They want to know that they're good, and they need to really get that feeling from their people.
That's interesting you say that. My cat wants to know that all the time. He wants to be praised and to hear that he's a great cat and that he's very good and that I appreciate him in my life, because he struggles with being a cat. He's usually a different type of energetic being.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, my cat is sort of like the opposite. He wants to know that we respect and admire him.
Well, yes. You probably work for him a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
The Egyptian temple cat routine.
Yeah.
This is Danya.
Yes.
I'd just like to say that desire to be recognized as good, that carries over into the certainly as far as the gray space, but every dog that I've talked to assures me that he or she is a good dog. And the one time that I had one who said he wasn't was the one who had gotten out of the yard and ran away to the river to play. And he says, I was a bad dog. I took my ball and went to the river. But then he explained that he was lonely and he needed someone to play with. But Ben, of course, took care of him, made sure he knew he was a good dog. But that's a real issue for them. They really need to know that they're good.
Yes, they do. I get that over and over. I do some remote healing over a radio station out of Bellevue, Washington, and yes, it seems to be a recurring theme. All right.
Well, I just love the work that you do. I think it's absolutely thrilling.
Yeah.
And of course, it also seems so natural. It just seems like it's a reasonable thing to do.
Well, it's funny because this is an area I started out as kind of a dyed-in-the-wool, just ordinary chiropractor, and then I just through experiences, my technique changed, the things I learned that helped change until I got to the point where it just became this energy work that I do now, and I never saw myself as being the kind of person who would be doing this work, especially at a distance. I could see doing it hands-on, but this non-locality thing, when I discovered that, is that, I could simply tune in if there was a person there with their animal, and they said, my animal needs some help, I could tune into that and start finding what needs to be done. It surprised me. It wasn't something that I'd ever thought that I would be doing, that's for sure.
We surprise ourselves.
And it really is equally effective, because my very first appointment I had for myself with Dr. NELS was in his office, and it was a long hike. It was almost a 2-hour drive from where I lived, so I was a little bit hesitant to switch to phone, but I got such wonderful results in person with him, and a friend had said, phone appointment works just as well, and he's going to tune in and you're going to know what to do, and you'll just go through the same best technique, the BEST, and it will be awesome. And in half an hour, I couldn't believe what we would cover. We would work through things for me, we would work through things for my animals, work through things for my family in 30 minutes. And all I had to do was go lay on my bed and have a phone appointment. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that's I just am continually blown away by what people tell me about what they experience when I do that. It's to me, it's not that big a deal. I'm just doing what I do, but apparently they're having wonderful experiences. And I guess, one sort of proof of how well this stuff works is I have people who use me over and over. They set me up on a weekly schedule because they want to maintain an ongoing level of progress. And I guess in fact, I'll just mention one person in particular. I had heard from my daughter that before she had ever met me, she told my daughter that, well, that man must be practicing some sort of devil's work. And I just kind of like, whatever, And anyway, she later on, she came to see me in person, and then when she had to move away, and now she's off in Arkansas, then I started working with her over the phone, and it was like no big deal to her. So something about her attitudes about the world had changed as well.
It's called having your mind opened.
Exactly. And that's happening everywhere. The awareness level is increasing exponentially. It's accelerating, isn't it, Wendy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tonight's a high energy. Tonight's a high energy night. This was a very good night for this type of show because you can feel the energy tonight. It's a very high energy night.
Very definitely true. I was just helping to teach a seminar on best bioenergetic synchronization technique that happened in Seattle this last weekend. And what amazed me, because we're talking about how the energy in the world is shifting, well, when I started to learn this, for most people, there's a part of the technique where we learn how to get a yes and a no so we can adopt a sort of binary approach to asking questions and getting answers. And it used to take people the whole weekend just to get a yes and a no, and some people it would take months and months. And now people come into the seminar, they step up to the practice table after getting some instruction from the front of the room, and they just start doing it. And it's like it's no big deal. So that's a big shift to go from people who can't even hardly comprehend it to people just walking up who've never done it before, and they're getting their yeses and their nos, and they're asking the questions that we learn to ask to get the results that we want to get.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, it really showed me the shift that's happening, and it's accelerating incredibly. The shift in how people are perceiving and working with energy anymore. I mean, it's just changing by leaps and bounds.
This is an exciting time to be in, for us to have incarnated in. We chose a good time to be back here right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I have to agree with that.
So let's see. I saw recently another, just to give another little success story, because I know they're lots of fun for people. I like to tell them.
Absolutely. We'd like to hear more. Tell us.
Yeah. So there was a Labradoodle in Bellingham named Zuzu, and he'd been limping for about a year, and he couldn't do his favorite activity, which was to do this activity called barn hunt, where they get out into the barn, and people have hidden these things that they're supposed to find by scent, and they're supposed to do it in just 2 minutes, and they have to get back across the finish line in that 2-minute time, and there's like 6 of them that are hidden. So it's a rapid fire exercise. And anyway, he hadn't been able to do that because they don't let dogs who are limping get involved in doing that activity. So anyway, the owner had heard about me from a friend, and I went to Bellingham in that case, and I saw that dog on a Tuesday and did my work on it, and then she brought it down to my office in Darrington on a Friday, which is, again, it's about a 2-hour drive. I'm about 2 hours from everywhere. Anyway, she brought him there, and on Friday he was about 90 to 95% better. When he would trot along, his first step you could see him bobble a little bit, and then once he got trotting, there was no limp at all, and it was just an amazing transformation. And we've worked on him multiple times since, and we've got him to completely 100% normal. And he'd been treating with chiropractors and acupuncturists and veterinarians for the whole year, and hadn't got the results that he needed. So it's very exciting for all of us to see how quickly things can change when the person, like me, who knows it's all energy, does what needs to be done, and it starts to change for the animal.
So you put him on the fast track to accelerated healing.
Yeah, definitely did.
Dr. NELS, what do you think is going on in these wonderful cases? Do you think it's energy balancing or sometimes giving more energy or removing energy? Because I know with people it can be dealing with self-limiting beliefs. Like I had a belief that I was always going to have trouble walking and always have back pain because of having curvature of the spine. And when we worked that through, in an hour, my leg length had shifted and I no longer had an inch difference between my legs, and was just, the difference was incredible. And I've been able to hold it since. But with an animal, are you just talking aloud to them? What are you doing to help shift that energy?
Okay, well, that's a great question. And what I do is with the animals, it's usually more quiet, except for when I pick up on that they have this feeling that they need to feel that the people know that they're good, and and that happens a lot. So I do talk to them quietly, but a lot of times I just communicate mentally, and that seems to work.
Okay.
I don't claim to be an animal communicator because, first of all, there's other people who are way better at that than me. Just let Darcy or Robin or someone else do that. So
yes.
Anyway, but I do know that my thoughts are registered in the animal, and how I'm feeling is definitely registered in the animal. But what I'm doing is, I'm putting my hands on specific places when I'm in person, and there's, the tactile information through the sensory system makes changes in the brain, and it's those changes that affect what happens coming out of the body. So most people seem to think that we have these motor systems that run our musculoskeletal system, but those things are completely useless if the sensory information coming into the brain is not complete and balanced. And that tends to be what happens, is due to stresses, falls, accidents, or emotional problems, the sensory system starts changing the way it's perceiving the world through the five senses, and the result is the output of the brain is no longer coherent and balanced because it's getting bad information, you could say. It's getting information that's old and out of date and in response to old stresses instead of responding in the moment to what's needed now. So we do a little update physically, and when I'm doing the distance work, then that is more of a pure energy thing, but it's still all about balance. The energy that is contained within the animal is 100%, is 100%, and it's perfect all the time, but it doesn't mean it's perfect in its arrangement. And so we rebalance that energy in the animal or the human being, and then healing begins to take place again, because now the energy and the communication is complete.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You bet.
Well, Dr. NELS, in the 5 minutes that we have left for the show, I'd like to ask you and Danya Wicklund both, if you had one message that you could send out to our listeners tonight, what would that message be?
Well, for me, I'll tell you that I think my message would be go to my website. Because if you go to my website, when you go to my website, you'll get the information you need to contact me. You can take an animal questionnaire that's on a page called something like Healing Packages, and that animal questionnaire gets right to me, and I can then start to tune in and find out, okay, where do we need to go, and I can start to talk to the individual about their animal so we can get something done. And if it's somebody, if you know somebody who has an animal that has a mobility issue or a health problem, if it's in pain or, it seems to be a mysterious condition, especially if it's in a younger animal and they need some help, I'm a really good option, because usually these animals has already been through the veterinary regime and it hasn't worked, and that's fine with me. Then just that hasn't worked. Let's get me involved.
Okay, Dr. NELS Rasmussen, go ahead for our listeners and call out the URL of your website again.
Okay, that is www.nels, NELS, healingministry.com.
Thank you for being my guest tonight, Dr. NELS.
Thanks for having me.